Hi, I'm making this video tutorial for beginners because I found that this software that we see in front of us, Open Joystick Display, just match exactly my needs, and I think every need that every streamer in the web. Simply because this software now is compatible with any controllers you can find in the market, starting from the version 2.4. I have problems with all my programs showing the controller on a screen. I contacted the developer, and the developer was really available to listen and to implement this new feature that we see here, that is switch controller support using fixed triggers. With this new section, any controller that, I repeat, available on the market are now compatible with any controller on any operating system. First thing first, I want also to say one thing. Simply, if you have any of the previous version of the software, I can show you that I'm asked also to the developer if there is a way to create a backup compatible from the previous version, beta version. And the developer said that just copy the C users, your name, app data, roaming, open joystick display, the config JSON file. So going to that folder on your computer, it depends what your computer you are using. Is it a Mac, Linux, or Windows? It depends the operating system, and copying that file that will make a backup of your previous configuration just in case something happened. And of course, I ask also that this save feature could be implemented, like for example on OBS, that you can click the save file and you can save it in any folder. Of course, the developer said that is going to come to the right in few months. So until now, we need to go into that folder, and of course, going here, you can see my config JSON file backup that we can see here. This is my backup just in case something right goes on, just something wrong happens. I have all my backup. Okay, let's go back into the Open Joystick Display, and I'm going to show you why my controller, that is a weird controller of course, but it works really good on Windows. I'm on Windows operating system, and why I've spoken with him and I have some problems with my controller, and why this new section here, you can see here all the buttons down here, these are the fixed triggers, are now available on this new version, and it stays with any compatible version. And we are going also to make a small tutorial about beginning tutorial how to use it. So let's reset the config. I repeat, before doing this, resetting the config, save your own config file in another from the folder we saw before in another folder. So even if you reset, you have your backup. And when we do it, we can see now this is the default Open Joystick Display that we can see at the beginning when you open for the first time. Here up, we can see there is an untitled profile. We can create any profile. For example, I'm going to create one. I'm just clicking it, and we can see now we have two untitled profile. I'm gonna rename it. Let's say that we are gonna stick with the PlayStation one, so I'm gonna stick it with PlayStation, and I'm gonna delete the untitled profile. So now we can see we have only one profile created, named PlayStation. After down there is a profile theme. It's mainly the UI, the user interface of your controller. We can choose many controllers, for example, from the Nintendo 64 to the Nintendo Switch, also from the Sony PlayStation. We can see here. So this software is very configurable device to any kind of controller existing on the market. The most famous one, of course. We can stick also changing the layout. Of course, we can, which this moment is analog black, but we can, for example, also switch on the digital gray or any other orange active, for example, and we can switch on any other layout. It's available for this profile theme. I'm gonna stick with the analog black. Of course, we can select the folder and open another layout, that if you have another layout in the in your computer. After we are going to the profile mapping. Why the profile mapping? The profile mapping refers to the buttons that you are on your joystick, because as you can see now, for example, here there is a Y, but on the PlayStation controller there are no Y buttons. So I'm gonna check it and of course put on the PlayStation 3 profile mapping, and we can see now on the right everything's changed. We have the cross, circle, square, triangle, and all the rest buttons that match exactly with the PlayStation controller. We can choose after the operating system Chromium or Retrospite for Nintendo or Network OJD Server Beta, but this is a beta version. I'm gonna stick with the Chromium one. We can choose also which player are using in this one. Until 4 player is using this profile right now. Player 1, player 2, 3 and 4. I'm gonna stick for the player 1. Okay, now with the chroma key and the profile option, this chroma key allows you to change the background of your controller. For example, if I enable the background, you can see that the color now is changed. I'm gonna stick with another color and I'm gonna use the blue one to find out which color are available, and to put in this one section refer to the web colors. This is our web code for the web colors. For example, if I'm going to stick with the FF in the middle, you see changes on green, and depending on which code are you putting in, the background color just change it. This always on top simply allowed to the window that you are watching on your screen is always on the top of the screen. Even if you click for another program, that window of Open Joystick Display will stay on the top of your screen. This zoom level, depends on the zoom level you need on your controller. But be careful about using this, because simply when you going to the profile window size, if you are going to play the escape mode, because as we can see the program says you are currently in configuration mode, to enter the broadcast mode just press escape on your keyboard. If I press escape on my keyboard, you will see what just happens. So this is too big, so you have to set the controller in a good zoom level and a good profile window size when you press the escape button. Of course, I'm gonna stick with the pull rate, in my case to 100. The pull rate just means the pull rate between button press and responsiveness. It depends what kind of game are you using, but remember, if you have a very high usage of CPU on your computer about this program, just go up, more up, until you have a good point between your computer and the CPU usage. Because we are not playing any game on this, I'm gonna stick to 100 at the maximum, so we have a very low usage. And if I gonna click escape button, we can see now that Open Joystick Display is using 1.7, not even 2% of the CPU usage. If I'm gonna stick again on, for example, 1 millisecond, if I'm gonna here, you can see that Open Joystick Display is using the 15% CPU usage, even more the Streamlabs OBS that I'm using right now to record my screen. So you can see the Streamlabs OBS is 7%, meanwhile the Open Joystick percent is on 14. So just it's up to you which camera you're using and how much pull rate. In this case, I'm gonna just record this video, so I'm gonna put the pull rate to 100 milliseconds. So as we can see now, I repeat, the Open Joystick Display is 1.4. So this is the problem about this software, but the developer said it's going to fit this in the next versions, in future version, of course. After here we have the profile window size, as we say before. For example, for the zoom level of 100, the best profile is 400 by 500. And we may press the escape button, we can see that the controller side fits perfectly the window. So we have not cut out the, of course, the controller into the window when you are playing or streaming any games. But in this case, because we are just only making a tutorial, we are going to increase, of course, the size of the zoom level into the controller, just to show that. So we have seen that in the last bar are all the configuration about our layout here. On the right side you have the button configuration of the controller, and in the middle this is the drivers that are connected into your operating system, depending on which computer are using. Right now I'm sticking with Windows 10, so I'm gonna connect my controller into my computer. I use a Bluetooth controller, and as we can see, buttons are working. These are the default settings that comes with the software Open Joystick Display. But as we can see, I'm pressing the D-pad buttons, and we can see nothing is happening on the controller. And also, if you can see the right analog stick, I'm pressing the horizontal left and right and it works, but if I press up and down, we can see it doesn't work. So we are going to fix all those things, and that will become very helpful. The new section about the new triggers that the developer Redrib has just created on this 2.4 version. So I'm gonna also enable, just to show you, this is the gamepad tool. The gamepad tool just retrieve the drivers that are installed into your computer, and of course when you press it, any button, this will show the buttons that are pressed on your controller on Windows, not on Open Joystick Display, just on Windows. So I'm gonna highlight this one. It will start. Okay, let's put this on the left side here. I'm going to do, and we can see that if I press the left button on the D-pad, the gamepad tools, we can see that works. I'm gonna stick it a little bit to the left, like this. Then I'm going to click on my turbo top, and I say that this program should stay on the top. So even if I click, you can see I'm clicking on this button, this will stay always on the top, so we can see what we are doing. So if right now I'm pressing the left button, the D-pad, you see that on the gamepad tool it's working perfectly. If I'm gonna push, for example, the up button, you can see that on gamepad tools on Windows it's just correct. It's the software Open Joystick Display that it hasn't been configured for any controllers or any drivers that Windows is compatible. So let's start configuration of the controller with the new buttons, all the buttons. Until now, you can see if I press the cross button, you see that simply on the gamepad tool it is correct, it just showed the cross button. Meanwhile, on the Open Joystick Display, it just showed the square button. So I'm gonna stick it with this one. It said the number 2. We can see at the bottom here when I press the cross button on my controller, it says that it's the number 2. So I'm gonna here to the square button, sorry, and I'm gonna square button, and I'm gonna press it. Sorry, cross button here, cross, and I'm gonna press it, stick it with number 2. So we can see now cross button and square button is the third button. So I'm gonna press with the third button. So now as you can see, there are 2 buttons equal. You can see now that the square button is number 2 and now is matched as the same controller. And if I press this one button, you see also match the square button, but is wrong also with the triangle button. I'm gonna press the triangle button. You can see is the top over there, and if the button says 0, I'm gonna go into the triangle and I'm gonna put 0. Sorry, 0. So right now, if I'm going to press the 0 button, we can see it highlights perfectly the triangle, circle, cross, square. Okay, next buttons. I'm gonna press the left one button and we can see that it matches perfectly. I'm gonna press the right one button, it matches. Left 2 button, we can see that on gamepad tools and also on the Open Joystick Display it matches. And right 2 button, that matches also. I'm gonna press the select button and we can see that it matches. I'm gonna press the start button, it matches. And I'm gonna press now the Bluetooth connection PlayStation, and we can see that we have some problems here about the Bluetooth. We can see that on the gamepad tool it matches perfectly, but on the Open Joystick Display it just go into up button of the D-pad, which is not correct. So I'm gonna delete all the buttons here, up, down, left, right, because simply it does not recognize it. We are going to make mapping them with the new section on fixed triggers. I'm going to stick with the Bluetooth PlayStation button, and it says that is as we can see here, it says 12. So I'm going to stick it here and put it on 12, and now we can see that perfectly matches on the controller, on Open Joystick Display, and also on gamepad tool. Okay, let's fix now the analog sticks. We can see the left one, it works perfectly, up, down, left, right. We can see on the both gamepad tools and Open Joystick Display are working good. But on the right one, we can see that I'm pressing all the direction, but it's working only the right and left button, horizontal axis, what it told you, which is we are coming right now into that in a minute. So how to fix that on the simply on the analog sticks when it's not working? We can see here down we have another section with directionals, which says x-axis and y-axis. X-axis is referred to the horizontal line, an imaginary horizontal line. Meanwhile, y-axis is referred to a vertical imaginary line. So when we're talking about X, we are talking about horizontal position, Y vertical positions. So let's stick with the left analog stick. You can see that he pressed, let me just activate the we have it here. Let's just increase the size so you can watch it better. So here is the this section. We can see not the buttons also, but only this section. We can see that when we are pressing every single, there are some axes that are activated. You can see on the axis 0 when I press the horizontal line on the left analog stick. When I press the vertical line, the y-axis, you can see there is an axis number 1 that is working. On the right joystick analog stick, same things. When I press the horizontal line, we can see this axis 2 that is working. When I press the vertical line in y-axis, we can see there is axis 5 that is working. And this is all you have to need about controlling, of course, the this section to fix the directional and the fixed trigger. So we said that on the first axis, on the first directional analog sticks, we can see 0 horizontal, 1 vertical. Which is this one? You can see 0 horizontal, 1 vertical. Analog stick number 2, we can see 2 horizontal, but 5 vertical. So we are going to come here and pressing and check on 5, and now we can see that vertical it's working. So everything is working fine. Okay, every single button are working fine now, except of course the D-pad that we can see is working on the left but not on the right. Okay, let's go and activate finally this new section that is created on this new version 2.4, and we are going to add a button. Okay, how does it work? We can see how we have 4 elements to choose. This first 2 is referred to the same axis as we can see before on the directional section. So that means you can have the horizontal axis that is X and Y axis that is vertical. So I'm gonna press the right and left, and we can see that right and left is on axis 9 and up and down is always on axis 9. So the D-pad on my controller works everything on axis 9. So we are going to stick always on the left with axis 9. Simply now configure all the buttons for each direction we need to the D-pad, and that is coming with the value and the buttons assigned to them. Let's start with the up button. We are pressing, you can see the up button on the gamepad tool, and we can see here it says last 1. So I'm gonna copy it with the shortcut keyboard. There is no available menu. You see, even if I right click it doesn't work. You need to copy this one with the shortcut keyboard. I'm gonna paste it, and you can see it's pasted, and this is referred to the up button. So I'm gonna put in the up button and test it, and yes, we can see now that it works, the up button. Let's do the same things for all other direction, right, down and left. So I'm gonna add another button, always 9 because we know that this is 9. Value, I'm gonna put on the right button, and I'm gonna copy the value, paste the value, and this is the right button. Check it. As we can see now, also the right button works. Up button, right button. Okay, let's continue. Always 9. Down button, I'm gonna copy the reference. I'm gonna stick it into the reference, and of course down button, and it's working. Add and last trigger, always 9 as a reference. and left button. I'm gonna copy the reference and the value with left button. Okay, now we can see we have all the four buttons for directional working. We can see right, up, right, down, left. That is working on everything. But the D-pad has 8 position. As we can see, we are pressing, watch the gamepad tool, up, right, direction, and is not working on the Open Joystick Display. So we have to create the 4 axes also for the up, down, left, right, left, down, right, down, left, down, up, left. So I'm gonna create another button, always 9, and this one I'm gonna create up. You can see, watch the gamepad tools, up, right. I'm gonna copy the same reference. I'm gonna put inside, and we are just going to say to Open Joystick Display that these values is referred to the up, right button. Let's try. Yoo-hoo! We can see now that it works. Now we have up, right, and up, right. So the 3 position that we are using. Okay, let's do the other ones. Always reference 9. I'm gonna press it. Oh, sorry, the controller Bluetooth disconnected. I'm gonna connect it right now again. Okay, I'm gonna press it. We can see left bottom, left down. You can see here, and gonna copy and pass the value. And we are going to say this one is right, down. Okay, let's check it. Good. Last 2, going reference 9, left, down, copying the reference, past, and this one of course is left, down, working good. And now the last one, always 9 in my controller, up, left, copying the reference is just 1, passing to the value, and is up, left. As we can see now, look, the D-pad is working. Everything is working good. For every single, I'm going up, right, down, left, up, right, left, down, left, right, down, left, down, up, left. So everything is working good. I'm gonna close the gamepad tools, and we can see now everything is working good in my controller. And I have fixed my drivers with they are installed with my controller into my Windows operating system, and now everything is perfect in my controller that we can see before it wasn't. Everything now is working good. L3 button, left, right 3, left 3, every single is working good. So this new section here with the fixed triggers is just the most valuable section, configurable section for any kind of controllers that are now available in the market. So any controller that you buy, it's compatible now with this new section, fixed triggers, with your controller. It's just enough that the operating system recognize every single action that you are doing on your controller. If it's the drivers recognize your controller on the operating system, that means that are compatible and configurable with Open Joystick Display. I hope that you like it. Thank you to everyone to watching this video.